Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Capitalist Investor. As always, you have me, Diamond Hands D. We got the whole crew here. Tony the Tiger, Cool Hands Luke. What's going on, guys? How we doing?
It's cold.
It is very cold.
It's very cold up here in Cleveland.
The boys are back in town. I had 3 flight cancellations and 3 delays yesterday. Supposed to be in New York right now, but obviously that didn't happen. Apparently the worst snowstorm in 2 years in New York.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, we watched the Buffalo and Pittsburgh football game.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah, we shouldn't watch that. That was pretty rough.
That was, well, if you're a Pittsburgh fan, yeah, it was rough. But, like, just the whole thing behind them trying to get that game kicked off was amazing. And then they still had issues.
Yeah.
So what amazes me sometimes is human beings putting themselves in situations that they know they won't enjoy, but they do it anyway and spend money for it. That's one of the situations.
I want to know how that played out, because like they just said, hey, no assigned seating, just show up, and I don't know if the diehards are going to show up to watch that game.
I was listening to something yesterday. The attendance was 70,000. So
really,
yeah, I don't know if that's true or not, or how that works, but yeah, you could see like the videos before the game. You had to like plow through snow to get to your seat. Like all the seats were basically covered.
Can you imagine standing in snow for several hours?
No, absolutely
like
not.
How do you stay warm?
There's no amount of money that you could have paid me to get me to that game.
What?
There's no amount of money you could have paid me to get me to that
I remember
game.
there's one game went with my father to Pittsburgh game, like when I was young, and we took hand warmers as like gel hand warmers, and they even froze over like in 5 minutes. So like that's, it's not fun.
I got hand warmers for Christmas. Like you pop this little metal thing inside, and it turns into like this hot gel, and it lasts for several hours. Like they're awesome. But anyway, I digress. All right, so what are we talking about today? We are going to talk about the White House, President Biden, and his maybe a flip flop on his take on Taiwan. We're going to talk about. What is this? Oh, yeah, we have a bunch of, just 8 EVs just dead as a doornail in this cold weather. We'll talk about that. AMD versus Nvidia. Who could AMD overtake Nvidia for the AI chip maker of the universe? We'll talk about that. Who's going to win? So we're going to talk about student loans again. And how some people are thinking of just not paying it because maybe it'll magically go away. We'll talk about that. And then canceled. We're going to talk about cutting the cable cord.
Nice.
And go from there. So
let's talk about Biden first.
All right.
You mentioned a key term there, flip-flop.
Mm-hmm.
So Taiwan, over the past weekend, had their election cycle. And essentially it was a battle for democracy or basically rolling it back up into the CCP, China, right? Couple of things going on, which I want to hit on. But first, what's interesting is we've always kind of supplied Taiwan with weapons and kind of support. And then over the weekend after the elections, the president essentially was pro-democracy, anti-China, is the party that won, which was kind of expected. Everyone kind of knew that was going to happen for the most part. But right after the election, Biden said that we do not support Taiwan independence, but we're still supplying them with weapons and support. So how do we not?
And then in 2002, he said we will, basically intervene if China comes down.
He basically said that last year. I felt like
he did in 2022. Well, not last year, but 2022.
That's what I'm saying.
He made that comment saying, "Hey, like."
So what is this telling you about future relations? I saw something interesting as well. What people don't look into, people just read the headlines. No one actually reads into like what actually happens. The party that supported democracy won, but within their own Congress and Parliament, they actually lost seats for those that actually supported democracy. So the party that was supporting rolling back up into China actually gained more seats in the Congress. Yeah. And they actually are now the ruling majority in Congress. So essentially, it's kind of like what we have here, to where you have a split, Congress compared to the executive branch, right? So that's an interesting observation too. Also, President Xi in China tweeted out yesterday that he's willing to talk more about U.S.-China relations and helping that, because if you look at the stock market, but the Chinese stock market, the Hang Seng, is down 50% since 2020. While the U.S. stock market's hitting all-time highs. So things are pretty rough over there in China.
Well, they just came in with weaker than China did. China came in with weaker than expected GDP yesterday, and their markets went down. Almost 2%,
3%.
3%. Oh yeah, last night it was down like 2. Yeah. Now it's even, and I mean they missed it. Like they were expecting like 5.3%, and they came in at 5.2.
And they're not lowering rates. They're supposed to have a rate cut essentially Monday.
Oh,
and she said nope, never mind, and that spooked the markets a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, maybe maybe they're going to look at it and say, you know what, let's take the pain and set ourselves up later. Where United States probably will not. I mean, I think the higher for longer thing is here to stay for the United States. In my opinion.
Is there any kind of observations you guys can draw from the election, basically losing seats in the parliament compared to the executive branch winning? Like, is that going to create potentially kind of like what we saw? What was the 2 years ago we talked about here in the U.S. markets, that the best scenario was basically a split, and that's history proves that a split. Executive branch and Congress actually proves the best for the market because gridlock actually is the best, right? Is that going to be the same thing you think over in China-Taiwan that's actually beneficial for the U.S. in some sort of way?
I don't know. I just think it's an inevitable thing. I mean, the size of Taiwan and the size of China, the money, the people, the amount of people, like the United States should be worried. We're outnumbered, 5-1?
Yeah.
like literally just people, right? I don't know. I feel like it's an inevitable thing, and it's just I mean, it's a big island, but Taiwan. I mean, I don't know. The biggest thing I'm worried about is the chip dominance. Like that's a lot of microchips are made in Taiwan.
I've been thinking about this a lot recently. China-Taiwan, any kind of war that sparks that, or any kind of tensions, is really a lose-lose situation for both.
Right.
Like for both U.S. and China. Because if U.S. and China tensions continue to rise, then we're just going to continue to pull our supply chain, basically completely destroy China from an economic standpoint, which they're already in a pretty bad place. So she doesn't want that, and I don't think the politicians over there want that. And then obviously if they take Taiwan, we're in a bad situation when it comes from a supply chain standpoint. So it's like, do the two biggest world powers want to continue to just to hurt their people? I don't know. I'm trying to be a little bit more of an optimist than I have been in this situation. I think that we might actually, the tensions might actually be priced in worse than they actually are going to be compared to the stock market. And Chinese stocks are trading at I'm not saying we should buy Chinese stocks. We haven't owned them for a reason. It's been good because they're continuing to drop every single day.
Yep.
But I think at some point it starts to become somewhat attractive as long as tensions don't continue to rise, and then we start delisting their shares and they delist us.
Mm-hmm. I don't think you can it doesn't seem like China from an economic standpoint really has the ability just to, start a conflict because that will have severe repercussions with their overall economy, especially if the U.S. starts pulling its supply chain like it's already started to do.
Yep.
So I think from that standpoint, it keeps Taiwan a little bit safer. And as far as Biden goes, it's kind of like an NFL locker room, right? You're just the coach is out there saying a bunch of stuff that's coach speak isn't true, but behind the scenes there's a bunch of other stuff going on. I think that's kind of what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean my final take on this is that all of this sounds really expensive.
Yeah,
and maybe other nations don't need to create a legitimate war with us. We just have to be on high alert all the time, which is going to be, the war machines are out, submarines, boats, airplanes, recon, things like that. And think about where we're at. We got Ukraine, Russia. We got that going on. Remember that? Like, who talks about that anymore? Right? Now we got Taiwan, and we got to watch their back, and then we got to watch our own back here in the United States. And man, it's just gonna bleed us dry. Yeah. Like no wonder our deficit's so high, because we got our hands in everything.
I just challenge everyone that's listening just to kind of dig deeper sometimes in the headlines. The biggest thing I took away from me reading the news cycle the past 3 days about China and Taiwan has been that we didn't start hearing about the parliament changing seats until like 3 days after the elections, here in the Western media. Like, so it's just very interesting that all the headlines said that, you know, the pro-democracy party won. Tensions are going to rise between China and Taiwan, but you look a little deeper. It's like that's not the story.
With gridlock, there's not going to be the tensions will probably be probably settled because there'll be gridlock.
It's just interesting the difference in the headlines.
All right, next topic, and I'm going to time this one this time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got frozen EVs all around the country where there's sub-zero temperatures.
Yep. A known issue. So yeah, you know, it's freezing temperatures here in the Midwest. A side topic, my kids didn't have school today. It's like, what, 10 degrees out there?
Yeah.
It seems a little ridiculous, to be honest. Wind chill advisory. I mean,
my car said 2, and with the wind chill is probably -10. I don't know.
These kids nowadays gotta suck it up.
Yeah, seriously.
Suck it up.
You're outside for 4 seconds. Yeah. Well,
kids nowadays.
Anyway, yeah, kids. You know, back when I was in school, we walked we walked to school no matter how cold it was. Yep. Just put a heated stone in my coat to keep me warm. So, but yeah, Tesla. Charging stations in Chicago specifically. Basically, there was just lines of dead Teslas and other types of EV because when it gets cold out, you know, you lose significant range on your electronic vehicles. So this has been a known problem, and you know, something that you have to take a look at if you're thinking about buying an EV, especially, you know, up north or in the Midwest or in the colder climates. It just does not work as well as it needs to.
So does that mean just like, I mean, obviously you have gas powered and you have EVs. I mean, is just the answer more of like a hybrid? When the weather's cold, you flip the switch and you go to gas, and then in the warm weather when the batteries can work better, and you flip it over to the EV side? I don't know.
I think it's more of a charging station issue.
Really?
Like if there was a charging station on every corner, you wouldn't have to worry about waiting in line. But right now, especially in Northeast Ohio, it's very limited as far as, you know, where you can charge.
Yeah.
If you have a Tesla and you go to a Tesla charging station, it works really cool. You know, it's a nice system, but there's just not enough of them.
So do you know how, like, so if I'm able to get hypothetically 300 miles on a full charge, like, what am I getting right now in 0 degree weather? Any idea?
Like 2/3.
2/3, like, so
Yeah,
I get
so
100 miles now.
You get 2/3 of 200.
200.
Yep.
Okay.
So you lose 100. Yeah.
The solution is let the free markets innovate.
My man.
Innovate to get technology to a point to where the technology can support and not give 2/3 or give you enough to not be upset about this. I mean, that's the answer in the end. What's interesting is China, EVs, Tesla specifically, just cut EV prices. They're like Model Y, I think, prices over in China. Or Model 3 and Model Y. And then Europe today just announced that they just reduced their Model Y prices as well over in Europe.
Yep.
So I think €5,000. That's a big cut from 55 to 49,000. I mean, that's a 10% haircut almost. So again, this is a perfect example of what could be potentially coming over here in the U.S., where these EV makers are going to have to lower their prices, not because they're efficient with their manufacturing of the EVs to make more profits. They're lowering prices because demand's lower, and people just aren't wanting to buy EVs yet. So the free markets aren't willing to buy.
Yeah, and you know, capitalism is winning there because I think a lot of American, you know, automakers are exiting the EV space. Right?
Capitalism always wins. Thanks.
Yeah, it should at the end, but
in the end, it always does. Resets.
All right. So
for the good and bad.
Let's move on to the next topic. AMD versus Nvidia. Nvidia just got a bunch of upgrades from Barclays and things like that, saying, like, I think they hit near an all-time high yesterday, and they're expecting a lot of revenue growth, and they're looking at, you know, supplanting themselves as the best AI chip maker above Nvidia. Like they're supposed to be coming, the closer in the race, the horse race. It sounds like they're the closer. They're coming in. They're coming in, catching up to Nvidia. So
we just added more AMD in our portfolios. I know.
Yeah.
I think we trimmed Nvidia because it just ran up so much, and then reallocated it to AMD, which is up a lot, but not up as much as Nvidia.
Right.
The way I look at Nvidia and AMD, how I've always kind of thought about it in my head, and from peers I know in the technology space, AMD is kind of the like off. I don't want to say it's truly off-brand, but like kind of the off-brand AMD, like or Nvidia, to where Nvidia is always going to be known as the top dog, like the premium luxury of for cloud computing or for AI computing. AMD is kind of going to be known as the second always, to where it's kind of looked at less of a premium brand. It's looked at as a cheaper brand, which means it's more towards the mass market. It's like the average person or average company will prefer AMD because it's cheaper, but compared to maybe the wealthy companies or those that are able to afford the Nvidia chips on a large scale basis.
Mm-hmm.
But the big difference too is Nvidia is more GPU based. They're quicker, like basically processing units, than CPUs. AMD is more CPU based.
So what goes in your computer and your laptop is AMD, and Nvidia is more of the AI stuff.
Yeah, like the server based, cloud based stuff. Yep. So I think it's got some catching up to do. I don't think it'll ever be surpassed Nvidia when it comes to AI, unless they completely change their business model.
Right.
Well, did you see what Kathy Wood said the other day? She came out yesterday and put Tesla at like $700 like per share price from current rates, and I think or something ridiculous, like looking at 700% growth or something because of their AI. Yep. Because they're gonna have all the AI in the cars and driving us around by 2027. Like she came out and made some crazy statement about how Tesla is going to be the AI.
She was right the first time around. She called like $1,000 Tesla when it was like $100 before the split, and it ended up hitting. So, who knows?
That's true. But you don't really associate Tesla with AI though, right? At least as of today. So, I mean, are they just going to make that leap because of the technology inside their car, or are they actually going to get into the chip game like everyone else, or like the AMDs and the Nvidias of the world?
Let's quickly talk about that. Did you see what Elon Musk said over the weekend, I think it was?
Yeah, didn't he say he wants to be in more control of a company if they're going to do AI? And he's only, I believe, 13% shareholder owner. So he said he wanted to have at least 25% control.
Yep. That's exactly the point I was trying. Yep. That's it. 25%, he said. That he needs to own of Tesla to basically build new products within Tesla. Otherwise, he's just going to build new companies outside of Tesla, private companies, build it himself. So the question has to be, from Kathy Wood's standpoint, from an investment standpoint, is this AI technology that we all talk about, whether or not it's coming or not, is it going to be built within the Tesla wrapper, or is it going to be built on an outside company that's going to supply Tesla?
That's owned by Elon, right?
Correct. That's going to supply Tesla, but not be owned by Tesla.
So how does he get 20? How does he go from 13 to 25? I mean,
I don't think
he's got X to pay for, Twitter to pay for.
He also said, I think, specifically voting rights. He didn't say actually ownership. So you can give him more voting rights without giving him actual shares in the company. Yeah. Because he's not motivated by money. I don't think, in my opinion, he's past the point of being motivated by money. It's not about actual change, but now it's about having control over that change.
Yeah, I mean, there might be quote unquote silent owners, percentage owners that say, "I'll give my voting rights to him."
Vanguard and Fidelity. Vanguard and Fidelity basically own like 13%, just like Elon Musk do, because of all the passive investing.
Something tells me they're not giving him their voting rights.
Probably not.
The market cap $700 billion, so another 12% of that is what?
A lot of money.
Yeah, 90 billion or so. So I don't think he has that laying around.
No. All right.
I mean, I do. I should just
hey, hit me up. So you can
billion. That's
Elon. You can hit my DMs. You can call the front door if you'd like.
Funding secured.
Taking Tesla private 420.
All right. So I saw a funny, well, not funny, but student loan borrowers are refusing to pay their bills in and they're protesting, saying, I was promised free education and I'm not going to pay these bills. Man, I started reading this and I was chuckling. Like, if I don't pay it, maybe they'll just, like, you start reading some of the quotes inside the article and they're like,
wish I was laughing.
Dude, it's like, oh, here we go. It's like, they were just making comments like, hey, you know, like, if I don't pay, like, it'll probably just go away, right?
It's true. They're actually not wrong. This is the problem, in my opinion. I'm not laughing because I think this is actually becoming more of a thing. Because the whole mentality is herd mentality here in the U.S. right now. It's like if everyone else is doing it, then what's the worst that can happen? We all can't just go bankrupt. We all can't just not, you know, they can't come after all of us, right? I mean, that's kind of the mentality. It's getting scary. It's not going to be just student loans. It's going to be mortgages. It's going to be car loans. It's going to be credit card debt. It's going to be everything else. This is the beginning of something bigger at play, in my opinion.
If that snowball were to really roll, and you get a bunch of people just boycotting paying their bills, like, I don't know what would happen.
It's the it's the most egotistical entitlement people in the world right now. This is the generation of millennials and Gen Z. They think the world is against them, but really they're against the world.
Right. That's very true. It's very easy to see, too, just by going out there in the world and talking to people. It is something, for sure. And the idea that you hit the nail on the head. It's a slippery slope, right? Now, you know, Uncle Joe said, you know, we're gonna, you know, get free college. We don't have to pay back our student loan debt.
Right.
Who's to say that doesn't go to credit cards? You know, because you know, the banks are taking all of our money with the, you know, whatever excuse they want to use. It can just go right down the line.
I mean, we need those new Stanley tumblers, man. We need those. And how am I supposed to pay for that when I got to pay for college? Come on.
That is wild. I've seen those clips on the internet. People fighting over drink mugs. The pink ones.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wild stuff.
It's just, you know, I'm just having the idea of the domino effect of not paying your bills and stuff like that. Holy cow.
Yep.
Yeah. Like if that were to become a thing, like holy cow. I don't know. A lot of banks would go out of business.
People don't realize how bad it is out there. Just watch some Dave Ramsey shows, like of people calling in.
Oh yeah,
with the amount of debt out there and the stupid decisions people are making. Like,
yeah, that's the thing. Just very, very uneducated decisions people are making. Yeah, it's
ruin your credit score. Then you can't borrow, and then what are you gonna?
It's like doom spending is really what it is. Right. It's not doom spending. It's like doom everything. Like just like YOLO. Like seriously, like YOLO. Like what's the worst that can happen? Who cares if I borrow against the world and I pass away? Like at the end of the day,
right?
I owe $2 million when I pass away, but I don't have to worry about it because I'm dead. That kind of mentality.
I mean, the Supreme Court came in and said, well, you know, Mr. President, you can't do that. and he's doing it. He continues to press that.
I mean, look at Robert Kiyosaki. Is that the guy who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Right?
Yeah.
He even said, like, I'm $1.2 billion in debt, but I don't have to worry about it because if I go under, then the banks go under. Right. They have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, $1.2 billion in debt. Like, what is he making on that? I mean,
he's worth like $300 million is what I've researched.
That's it?
Yeah. So he's got $1.2 billion. So he's like $1.5 billion in assets, but $1.2 billion in debt to finance that assets. Apparently, it's what I've read.
I mean, I guess I would assume the arbitrage is there. You know, $1 billion in debt is going to cost you what, $800 million a year?
But this is the problem with leverage. Right? The problem with leverage is like what happens if one shoe were to drop and something there.
No, it would be $80 million a year if at 8%.
Yeah.
You know, right? I think that would be the math. And like, I guess if you're making $100 million on that debt, like, that's a nice living. I made $20 million this year.
Nice living.
That's a nice living. I made $20 million this year, and even though I have $1 billion in debt, like if the arbitrage can work
for the long term, yeah.
Right, long term, yes.
It's easy to arbitrage when everything's good and things are pretty simple, but
sure. All right, yeah.
That's the world.
Yeah, it's the Rich Dad Poor Dad. Yeah, like I saw that $1.2 billion in debt, and I'm like, Jesus. I don't know how he got there.
Yeah. But the question, real quick, the question I have to ask about when it comes to younger generations is like, what do they want out of life? What do we, my generation, want out of life? Is it just to make money, to fulfillment, to buy materialistic things, or is it money to be free? Because at the end goal, when you retire, all those listening that are retired, people we work with, like they retire to be free, to live comfortably and be able to do what they want to do, but like, you know, spend time with family, travel, all the bucket list items they wanted to do. I think the younger generation's doing it for the wrong reasons. It's to buy the bigger house, to buy the nicest car. It's not just to be free. It's they're the most. We have the most opportunity to be free, but we're the most not free, in-depth generation ever, I think.
Well, I mean, my goal was, or my goal is, I guess, to be like a baby boomer. You know, like, hey, I'm gonna accumulate debt. I'm gonna get a house. I'm gonna pay it off, and then by the time I get to retirement, that should be free and clear. Like, just things need to happen in progression, right? So then where are, you know, and that's, what am I, Gen X, right? You know, so then we got that millennial and Gen Z. So it's my generation that's ruining these kids, I guess. I would assume that's what's happening, because I don't, but maybe you can think of it this way, is like, as the baby boomers, you know, pass away and they pass that money on to the Gen X, what's the Gen X doing with that money for their kids, the millennials and Gen Zs? Are they giving them that money? Are these kids like, hey, like, I don't need to work because I know what mom and dad just got, and I'm just gonna hang out right now. Yeah, I just need to hang out and wait this out until my parents.
But it's saying one generation makes it, the next one grows it, the next one spends it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, they always talked about
boomers
in the 20s and the 20s and the 30s, all the Rockefellers and the Vanderbilts, like, you know, I think, what did they say? Like, the Rockefellers had a family reunion, and he died with billions of dollars, and they showed up, and there were a handful of millionaires amongst all of them. Like, it's just gone.
Well, I think that's what's happening. Boomers made it. Gen X is growing it currently, and then Gen Z and millennials are going to spend it.
Yeah, tumblers, man.
Cycle repeats.
Stanley tumblers. Get some. All right, guys. All right. And now the last topic, the canceled. All right, man, I did it. I was very scared. I've had cable basically all my life, for the last 40 years probably. and the straw that broke the camel's back, our AT&T Uverse bill literally went up like $100 or $120 in a month. Like something expired.
Right.
Some kind of promotion expired. I mean, it went like almost to $400. And I'm like, you know, I've been talking, you know, about getting this done, and that was the straw. Like now it's just going to be internet, and where I landed on, I got Hulu Live.
Nice.
I like it. It's like $80 a month, but and then you tie in the internet, it's, you know, between a third and a half of what cable is going to cost. And I've been months. I'm not a technology kind of guy, but I figured it out pretty easily. So if I can do it, I'm pretty much most people can, because I'm just not good at that stuff. But
you're not alone on the island. My parents I got a text over the weekend. They're like, hey, Luke, how do you like YouTube TV? We're thinking about changing from our cable. It's getting too expensive.
Yeah.
So they just went through the whole transition themselves. I think they landed on YouTube TV. The reason they asked me about YouTube TV is because I have YouTube TV, not because I pay for it, but because our video and audio engineer over there, he's got a nice little family package that he shares love with me. So I kind of bum off of him whenever
people
I
helping
watch
people there.
But why is that?
Well, we got to use it for work. We have to use it to watch Mark on TV all the time.
Okay.
To make sure, you know, we take the videos and get them uploaded to the website, things like that, right? So there's a use case for it. But, you know, I'm not going to say when I'm not home, there's a football game on that I want to watch. You know, I'll plug it in there and use it every once in a while. So thanks, Chris.
I'm staring at you, Chris. Our engineer, Chris. I'm like, hey, why did I not know about this? Why did I not know? Why do I not know about this? This little. I'm gonna think
until
about this
YouTube
one.
TV cracks down on us like Netflix did and has the IP address sharing thing.
Yeah, I think the only thing with Hulu that, like, I guess only 2 TVs can be like kind of working at once on the. I think we paid an extra couple dollars, so like upstairs TV and a downstairs TV can be playing Hulu, but outside of that, you can't get a third or fourth. So you can't share it necessarily. So that's what I'm kind of learning.
Chris always takes care of me.
That's good.
YouTube TV, I think, works. I don't know if it's unlimited or you get at least 3, but because I got 3 TVs in the same room, and YouTube TV works real nice.
6 people.
Oh yeah.
Do you like YouTube? YouTube TV. My cousin had it, and I was just like, I was like, whatever. I don't know. I'm taking Hulu.
Did you get the Hulu plus the Disney plus the ESPN?
Yeah, it's got all.
Yeah, that's a great package.
I don't know.
It's like only a few bucks more.
Yeah,
than,
it's like $80-$90 a month, but tie that in with internet, and I should be well under $200 a month.
I was considering
the biggest thing is I had to make sure that Nick.
$200 a month for cable, though.
Nickelodeon and Nick Jr. It had to. That had to have happened. Yep. My 4-year-old, I don't even know what life would look like on the other end if she didn't have those. Paw Patrol.
Oh yeah.
All these other new movies. Bluey.
Oh, Bluey's awesome. My dog loves watching Bluey.
All right, one more thing, but my mind was blown. I just learned. I've been watching Bluey, not by forceful measures, for almost 4 years now. I did not know Bluey, the blue dog, the baby blue dog, was a girl. I always thought it was a boy until I read Emma a book, and it's like I learned that she was a girl. And it blew my mind. I'm like, I'm still getting over it.
Do you want to know another quick fact?
Just didn't know.
The reason why my dog watches Bluey and likes Bluey is because it was made for dogs, kind of in a way that the color scheme. It's very blue.
Yeah.
And dogs can actually see the colors compared to traditional colors in the.
That is an interesting fact right there.
Yeah. So you'll see my dog literally. His corgi is literally on the couch just watching it, like intently watching. It's kind of
interesting.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think that's it. Dee, take us home.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening this week. If you have any topics, show ideas, if you want to catch up on Tony's stock picks, hit us up at info@swp.
I'm blowing the doors off with my picks.
It's early though. It's
literally.
So our dinner got pushed back to today. If you're listening to this podcast, it's finally today.
Oh, our stock pickers for last year.
We got delayed because Rob was sick.
Yeah. No. Today is the day.
Oh, you guys are going to Marble Room tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
We'll fill you in next week how it goes.
All right. Let us know what that final tab is.
Gonna have to roll me out of there, literally.
All right. Well, thanks again for listening, and we'll talk to y'all next week.
The opinions expressed in the podcast are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any investment, legal, financial, or tax strategy. It is only intended to provide education about the financial industry. Please consult a qualified professional about your individual needs.